This is Cam from Epic Conversions. Today, I want to talk to you about frameworks over formulas. Um, you know, I've been on Substack here for a little while, and one of the things that's kind of disheartened me about this platform is the formulaic approach that I see people taking to notes. In particular, notes. I see it in their content too, like in their posts and things of that nature. But it really shines through in notes, and especially since you know they've started allowing people to schedule notes. So now people are really going crazy, and I do think that I think the AI really lends itself to obviously allowing people to automate. Everyone wants to automate everything. And it's like they got this set of formulas, you know what I mean? They got like a set of formulas for their they got like a set of formulas for what they're trying to do, you know? And I understand, like, from a creator's perspective, why that's appealing, to have this set of formulas where you can just plug things in. You can just plug ideas into the formula and go. Um, you know, but I just like I gotta tell you something, man. It's not. It becomes less and less effective the more you abuse these formulas. And what I see now is I see a whole bunch of people using AI to create things. And like the AI is using the formulas. The AI is using formulas that perhaps the people who are using the AI aren't even aware of. But those formulas are being used nonetheless, or they're just punching those formulas into AI in the form of a prompt, and AI is spitting out like 50 pieces of content under that formula. And so like what I'm saying is, like, it's far better with the content that you create. Now, this is just my opinion, okay? You can say what you want about me, you can, oh, what do you know, Cam, blah, 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 say whatever you want, man. I don't really care. This is just my opinion. Um, as someone who reads content on Substack, and I watch content on YouTube, and I consume content in these social media places, and I know what works for me, and I know what doesn't work for me as far as like being a reader or being a consumer of this content. Um, what I can tell you is, like, to me, you're far better off using frameworks over formulas. Frameworks over formulas. Um, and I know those two things, they seem very similar, but there's a difference. There's a big difference. Um, so the best way that I could describe it, I think, there's a lot of ways I could describe this, but let me use this. This is a really good example, I think. A lot of people these days, like, they have GPS on their phone, right? And if you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to get to like a garage sale, or you're trying to get to someone's house who you've never been to their house before, you punch in the address into your phone, and your phone sets out a route for you, and it tells you exactly how to get there. It gives you the exact coordinates on how to get to that house, right? That's like a formula. Okay, that's like a formula. You got the exact route on how to get to your house, and how that would translate to a piece of content is, it would translate to, okay, first you're gonna have a hook up here at the top. It's gonna be in bold. Then you're gonna have like a an agitation event, right? You're gonna have this agitation event where you talk about struggle, where you talk about a problem, and then boom, you have the answer, right? You have the answer, what you did to solve the problem, and then boom, you have a pitch, right? You're pitching what you want them to do. You want them to take an action. That's a formula, right? That is a simple formula. And it's the equivalent of the GPS giving you the exact route to a location, all right? So what I'm saying is, when you use, AI to you punch in that kind of formula into AI, and it just spits out like 50 pieces of content for you, given that exact formula, what it's gonna be is everything's gonna start looking the same. Now, a framework is different, right? A framework is more like a compass, right? It's like, I know my friend lives north. He lives at the edge of town and he lives north, right? So I got to go north. So like I know he lives on like this particular street and I'm using this compass to get there and this street is on the north end of town. Now I got to figure out my own route on how to get there, right? I could go any which route I want to go depending on if I want to take the highway, depending on if I'd like to go through the park, depending on if I want to stop by like, the gas station and get a little extra gas or a snack or whatever, just depending on what I want to do in my life, things are going to change, right? So it's like a compass versus the GPS system, right? And so what I'm saying is with your content, in my view, it's far better to use the compass. It's far better to use a framework that is very, very flexible. It's very, very flexible, and you can operate within a simple framework to produce a lot of different kinds of content. Um, it's not so rigid. And I'm not saying that there's not a time for formulas. I'm not saying formulas are bad and frameworks are good. Saying what I am saying in the case of regular content that you're putting out there, like regular free content that you're putting out there in an effort to build an audience, in an effort to pull people around you, in an effort to grow your email list or whatever. What I'm saying is that is not necessarily a good. That's not a good place to use formulas. It's far better to use frameworks for that kind of situation. And the reason why is because number one, everybody's different. Number two, people are really, really sensitive to patterns. So when you start using the exact same kind of pattern for every piece of content that you put out there, it starts to look very, very formulaic and it becomes less impactful. And what happens is in this day and age, whether this is true or not, whether you're using AI or not, the more formulaic you seem, the more people think you're just using AI. And now all of a sudden they don't even want to read your content. They don't want to consume your content. They feel like you're just using AI to produce it so that you're not putting a lot of effort into it. You're not putting a lot of attention on it. Why should they put effort into consuming it? Why should they put effort into dealing with it? Why should they? And I think that's a legitimate question. Why should they? Um, so the patterns I think are punished even more now by your potential prospects than they were like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, people saw patterns 5 or 6 years ago and they probably just tuned out because they're used to it. But now they see those patterns, they don't just tune out. They think you're using AI to create the content. Um, so again, that's why I say, like, when it comes to free content, especially, I think that like it's frameworks over formulas. Um, you want a lot of freedom. It's just you want a simple framework um, that would allow you the freedom to speak about a great many things. I'll give you a little bit of an example. So I've produced free content for a long time, and one of the ways that I produce content, and this is something I'll use when I don't have something really to say. Like right now I have something to say. Frameworks over formulas, right? And that's a specific thing that I have to say. But what happens if I want to do like a live stream like this 3 days a week? What happens when I want to do 5 notes a day or something? Like what happens? Well, for me, I have a few simple frameworks that I use that allows me to create that content. Now, one of those frameworks is very simple, right? And I got this, this I didn't invent this. This came from Ernest Hemingway, Movable Feast. Okay, but it's one true thing. What is one true thing? This is something Hemingway used. He talked about one true sentence. Whenever he said he has writer's block, he always just tries to think of what is one true sentence? What is one true sentence? And then he'd be off to the races from that one true sentence. Well, like, I found that to be, like, unmeasurably useful to me. Like, when I don't have anything to say, when I feel like I'm tapped out on ideas, like, I would just simply ask myself, what is one true thing in my life? Um, in my business, you know? It doesn't have to be in my business, it can be in my life. But what I will do is I'll say, okay, well, what's one true thing? And then I always circle it back around to my business. So, like, today, I can tell you the one true thing for me is I'm tired. I'm tired. I went to bed at like 3:30 in the morning last night, and I'm tired because of being my schedule being so weird. But the thing about that schedule is, you know, I worked night shift for a really long time. Um, and I did that before. Like the last 15 years, I've worked for myself. But before that, I worked night shift at a hospital, and it's just funny to me that like 15 years of working for myself and being able to go to bed whenever I want, and that night shift still creeps into my day. And some days I don't get to bed till 3 or 4 in the morning, just because of that still. And I'm tired today from it, and I'm frustrated by it. You know, something I did in the past is still like affecting me 15 years later. Um, so that's one true thing for me. And then the other part of that framework is like that the part of that framework is pick out one true thing in your life, right? And the second part of that framework is how does it apply? How can you circle that back around to what you do in business? How can you circle that back around to your niche? Now, whether your niche is like weight loss, whether your niche is coaching, whether your niche is, you know, business, online business, whether your niche, whatever your niche is, like how could you circle that one true thing back around to your niche, right? With some kind of a lesson, some kind of takeaway. You know, for me, I'm tired, right? Now, I happen to know that even though I'm tired and even though I can blame me going to bed really, really late on the fact that I worked the night shift 15 years ago, you know what else is true? I was up really, really late last night working on my online business, right? Now, could I have turned all computers off at 9 p.m. and only done like reading from a physical book after 9 p.m.? Could I have said like, "Hey, I don't do any screen work after 9 p.m.?" Yes, I could have. Now, if I would have done that, if I would have eliminated screen work from my life after 9 p.m., guarantee you I would not have been up till 3:30 in the morning. Guaranteed, right? So what's the lesson there? What's the point? The point is, there's always some accountability when things don't go your way. There's always something that you could have done. You're never just the consummate victim. It's never just someone else's fault. There's always something you can do to take control of a situation. Like that is the lesson. All right. Now, do you understand? That's a very simple framework. What is one true thing? And whatever that one true thing is in your life, how does it circle around to your niche? Right? Now, it's a very simple framework, all right, but it's also a very powerful framework. But the beauty of that framework is you can take that framework in many, many different directions and produce many, many styles of content from that framework. And that is different from a formula. A formula is rigid. A formula is like a cake recipe, okay? If I want to bake a chocolate cake, I have I have to follow the recipe, you know? I have to have like flour, I have to have eggs. You know, I'm not a chef. I don't know what all it takes to bake a cake, but you know, I got to have all the ingredients to bake the cake, and I got to cook it a certain way. I have to put the stove or the oven on a certain temperature. It's all got to be precise. It's a formula, okay? Now, what I'm saying is on Substack, I find it very disheartening that I see so many people being so formulaic with their content. And let me tell you something, some of this content you guys are having AI write for you, it's not good. It's very formulaic. And not only is it formulaic, it's not even good advice. It's like bad. It's like, if you look at it and you just kind of skim it, it's like, oh, okay, cool. But if you actually read it and you actually think about what it's saying, it doesn't make sense. It stops making sense. It's like, wait a minute, what? It's crazy. I mean, I could give you guys some specific examples, but I just can't think of any off the top of my head. I saw somebody say something like the other day, it was like, you know, I, I, you know, I used to think that people, I used to think, he said something like, what was it like? I used to think that people, I used to think that caring meant saying the right thing. Yeah. He said, I used to think that caring meant saying the right thing. Um, but then the only problem with that was often I took too long to say anything, which led people to believe I just didn't care at all. It's like, what? What? It's like if you don't think about it too hard, you're like, oh, that's nice. You learned something. You learn to say so. You learn that saying something is better than saying nothing. You learn that saying something is better than saying nothing. Yeah, the problem with that is that's not how human beings are. Human beings, when who is walking around saying that, like, yeah, when someone says something to me and they're having problems, they're having a lot of problems. Someone comes to me and they're having a lot of trouble with something and they're confiding in me with these problems. And I just don't say anything because I'm waiting for the right thing to say. So then, like 2 days later, I call them back and say something. Or like an hour later, I say something to them. Or like 15 minutes later, I say something to them. But in the moment, I don't say anything to them because I don't have the right thing to say. So I just don't say anything in the moment. Like, no human being on the planet is like that. That doesn't make sense. That could only be written by an artificial intelligence. And no, it sounds good in the moment. It sounds good in the moment because it's like, oh, yeah, I get it. It's better to say something than to say nothing, right? The problem is it's doesn't make any sense. That's the problem. It doesn't make any sense. And a lot of this stuff that AI says doesn't make any sense. But a lot of the stuff that AI says is formula based. Frameworks are better for free content than formulas. Okay, frameworks over formulas. Frameworks over formulas. So, anyways, I hope that's helpful to you. I'm actually sitting in the parking lot at my local library. I just came to get a book. Um, I've taken up the hobby of bicycle. I found this bicycle for really cheap. I got this bicycle for like $10 off this lady, and I want to like kind of restore it. I want to kind of fix this bicycle up. Um, it's kind of like a hobby I've taken up now. I don't know why, but bicycle repair is interesting to me now for some reason. Like some hobbies, they just fall out of nowhere. So now I'm like reading books on bicycle repair, and I'm trying to figure it out. It's fun to me. I don't know how I got into this hobby. It's a really weird hobby, but um yeah, just out. My goal is to have a nice bicycle this summer to ride for exercise, but not to buy a new one. Instead, to restore an older one. That's what I want to do, man. I don't know. I might have gotten over my head. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I mean, it seems simple enough, right? It's a bicycle. I just got to find the right like books and YouTube videos to kind of figure it out. But anyways, that's what I'm into. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Cam from Epic Conversions. Um, if you want to know more about my business, epicconversions.com. Just head on over there and sign up for my email list. If you like these live streams that I do these a few times a week. And if you like these live streams, just subscribe to me right here on Substack. Cam from epicconversions.substack.com. All right. Anyways, you be good out there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace now.